There we go.
Nice background. Okay, so
Sam,
here real quick, Ipswa,
my
I'm just going to give an introduction. So welcome to the first episode of the KingMakers podcast. The KingMakers meet biweekly in support of young men's mentorship, development, and rites of passage work. I'll be your host for the evening, Frank Reno, co-leading this discussion with the main character of the evening, yours truly, the one and only Brad Lesley. Before we get into it, we are going to be blessed on this first episode by the one and only grandfather Ipswa.
Sam, Siada, Idida. I recognize the traditional peoples across Turtle Island and across the world who continue to preserve the traditions of initiation, oral stories, and histories, including our own relatives here in this circle, who work tirelessly to ensure the next generation of men remember who they are, what we do in common for community, in service to each other, and living a life of excellence. Whether we are born from high quality or those that are just struggling to get by. And especially today, I acknowledge the men here in this room who have put tireless hours into creating opportunities for young men to discover who they are, their values, their vision, their mission, and to explore the identity of what it means to be a man in 2026. Imagine that, 2026. There was a time when in sci-fi we even imagined what 2021 would look like. So we have intergenerational knowledge and history. And today we're here to honor our relative Brad Lesley, who has done tireless work in the Young Man Adventure weekends and in his own community to uphold and remind us that the work we do for the generations behind us is important. So I honor and thank each and every one of you who are listening today. I honor and acknowledge each and every one of you for wherever you come from. And I'm grateful that you're here today listening to us. Thank you for caring. Thank you for being the next generation of people looking to create a community of intention, value, principle, and quality. Hey, hey.
Okay.
Oh,
Home relations.
Oh,
Thank you,
thank
Ipswa.
you.
outstanding. Awesome. Great way to start. And so I would like to dive in and we'll get into Mr. Brad Lesley. Why don't you tell whoever might be listening, you tell us, talk to us about who you are, where you're from, what you're about. Start from the beginning. Go right ahead.
Give me a couple of pointed questions, will you?
Yeah, so
Um,
what's your name? Where are
Name
you
is Brad
from?
Lesley. I live in just outside Vancouver, BC, Canada. Gorgeous
Mhm.
little beach town called White Rock. I have a little hobbit house here. Um, yeah. What else?
Awesome. So
My day.
tell us more about your day job, what's kind of
Okay.
got you through life, and yeah,
All right. Just personal bio stuff.
yep.
I was married 50 years ago. Created two phenomenal children, son Dorian and daughter Daisy. And Daisy, with her husband Adam, created three phenomenal grandsons, rock stars. They're all in Victoria on Vancouver Island. My day job for 50 years has been a real estate salesman with Remax. Uh, Sold over 1,000 houses, thousands of clients, and now I keep looking after my family, my extended family of clients. Phone keeps ringing. I seem to know what I'm doing. They still like me. Um, for years, I had a joke that what do you do for work? Well, I'm a rock and roll bass player filling in between gigs by selling real estate for 50 years. So, oh, by the way, I love playing music in any form, guitars and pianos. And then with my other spare time, I'm a carver. So you see my little raven here? It's my little pocket raven. Oh yeah, me and Andy Vine started Young Men's Weekend in February. Oh, about this week in 1990. So 20, 30s,
Wow.
long. What do the math? Um, Young Men's Weekend, which is spread and gained traction. It's just not a one-off little event. It actually has a life of its own. It just keeps on going. And it's what it draws to it men like these that just get it about the importance of man's job in the community, on the planet, is to look after the next generation in one way or another. So it's been a ride. It's been a ride.
Mm. So then I would love to hear about what was the event that birthed Weimar. What happened such that Weimar came into fruition?
Okay. Back in the, when was it, 80s, when I was in real estate, I was doing all the self-development courses. Uh, Tony Robbins, Fire Walking, Sweat Lodges, Buffini, Ferry, all the real estate, psychological closing, all that stuff. And Landmark and Sterling and a bunch of other, Freemason, and all the self-development stuff. And the last week in January of 1990, there was a wild man's weekend on an island off the coast of Vancouver here. Cold, had to break the ice on the ocean to go for a swim on Sunday mornings. Yeah, we used to do that. The following day, me and Andy were chatting like typical Monday morning quarterbacks. Oh, it's a great event. Yeah, it's a great time. Yeah, it's a great time. And Andy says, yeah, but someone should do a weekend just for teenagers because they got to get this stuff too. Yeah, someone should do a weekend for teenagers. And some idiot here said, well, you're going to have to fight to get me out of your back pocket. Let's do it. And 3 weeks later, 3 months later, we had our first Young Men's Adventure weekend with 25 men and 50 teenagers.
Mm.
And we cobbled together a bunch of stuff for like a wild man weekend out in the bushes on an island somewhere. And then next year, the guy said, hey, let's do that thing again. All right. So we did it again. And over time, it took a life of its own. And it was, all right. It was dragging me along. And after about 10 years in, I kind of surrendered to it. And, all right, it's March. Let's go do it again.
Mm.
So yeah, it's got a life of its own. It drags me along. We do the weekend for the teenagers. They get welcomed into man's world in a good way. I often say that the teenagers are just the excuse because the men are the beneficiaries of all the stuff because they get initiations and everyone learns and gets benefit out of it. But after 35 or 40 years of this stuff, I'm the ultimate beneficiary of having gone through this a couple of times every year. It's good stuff.
Mm. And then digging into it a little bit more. So with Weimar being an outlet for you to give back to the world, do you have a specific moment in your life, whether it was as a man or as a child, that you have anchored that has been a source of inspiration for you to have created and run Weimar? Did you have a moment as a child that kind of brings you back to why you do this?
I haven't thought of one. And as you're asking the question, I don't know. It's just like my job. You just got to go do it. And in my degrees, I'm just understanding that every man's role in society is to look after, be the provider and protector for the community. Just your family, it's the village, the teenagers, the everybody. And just by degrees, I'm learning the responsibility of every man's job is providing for and preserving his community. In this case, specifically by looking after the next generation of men.
That's awesome.
Personal epiphany moments. I was a rock star in England in the 70s. That was too much fun. I
Came back to Canada and yeah.
Then I got married and 2 kids and a day job.
Yeah, that settled it down.
But I carry all of it.
Okay, so I what I'm hearing too is you really took it upon yourself to take responsibility for the next generation, and you said, I'm going to be a reason why the next generation will succeed. And I think it's cool for anybody that might listen to this is to understand that, understand leadership and what it's like to actually step up. We wouldn't actually be having this conversation if Mr. Lesley didn't step up to do this a long time ago, which is big because, we don't realize it, but we might actually be changing the world with one decision. So I think that's important to highlight. So I acknowledge you for that you've actually significantly impacted and changed the world just by saying yes.
Oh, what do you think? It's phenomenal. And I'm utterly amazed this stuff keeps happening around me Here's a,
Mm.
I tell lots of stories. So there was
Yep.
a young man that came to the weekend in, I don't know, 2006 or 8, and then specifically in 2011. And he hated it the first time because of the mosquitoes. Second time, he loved it. And then the next year, he came back on the production team. No dad, single mom, tough time. I ran into him a year or so ago, and he profusely thanked me. And then he got married, baby's on the way. And then just for fun, uh, he was on a chat thing on Saturday morning. Yeah, we're in labor. And then at noon on the day, hey, I need a mechanic on a Saturday. My car's not working. So I phone him. Are you in labor? Yes. As a midwife saying you have to go to the hospital? Yeah, as soon as possible. Text me your address. I'll be there in an hour. I picked him and his wife and her mom up. She's in labor, the backseat of the car, drove him to the hospital. So the young man I had the weekend, what, 25 years ago, 20 years ago, I delivered his wife to the hospital. It just
Mm.
loops around, loops around. We're still looking after each other.
Mm.
It's uncanny. Sometimes it's cosmic coincidences. Sometimes there's tough moments where, a guy might knock on your door one day having a pretty tough time and just hang out and walk him through it. You never know. You never know.
Mm. I love that. And are there any moments in addition to that? Do you have any good stories that kind of anchored, where something clicked where you're like, okay, this is it.
There's there's as you asked the question, there's a timelessness that happens when we have 50 teenagers and 50 men out in the wilderness. I mean, the wilderness. We're off the beaten track in the middle of no place. And Friday is set up, Saturday is all kinds of mayhem. Saturday night, there's this raucous, barbaric ceremony stuff. And then Saturday midnight, the production team circles up around the fire and we're all totally spent and totally exhausted. But when you've had 100 of us screaming at the moonlight, it's mythological. We can be anywhere in the last million years where 100-man hunting party or 100-man search party or whatever, we go off in the wilderness and hang out. So is it just getting the extent of the timelessness of this? So we don't do this in response to any societal fad or whatever the horror show of the day is. This is
Right.
just like a prehistoric thing. It's been going, men initiating young men, and the men doing initiation get lots out of it. So there's a universal timelessness to the whole thing. And every time I get to a Saturday night, I tell the men, the only payoff I get is sitting with the men at midnight and we're all spent around the fire. I'll put up a picture of it in a minute. It's yeah, that keeps bringing me home.
Mm.
It's wild.
There's something that I really appreciate when you've talked about Weimar, and you talked about it in many senses. For context, Leslie and I have worked together in other ways as well. But there you go. If somebody can, hey Paul, do you think we'll be able to get this in a video recording?
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
What we see now, I think, will be shared on video. Maybe we
Awesome.
could also superimpose it, or Leslie could share that with us.
Yeah.
Cool.
Mhm.
Cool. Leslie, could you tell us more about this experience? You talk about like the liminal space, or that moment when you enter that, those 48 hours or so.
Yeah. Well, let me go back to like an overall context before we get down to the concrete stuff. This kind of sets the tone, the theme, the context, the why of it. It's a visual thing. Like, imagine a pyramid in front of you, a triangle. There's a line down the middle, and the line down the middle, right here, is age. So you got 0 at the bottom and 100 years at the top, and then it's like a triangle, and that represents the 8 billion people on the planet, and roughly half are women. We'll just move the ladies over here. So we got 4 billion males because half the population, and then above 20 years old is about 1.5 billion males, and below 10 years of age, there's about 1.5 billion because a lot more down here. 1.5 and 1.5, that's 3 billion from your 4 billion, leaves 1 billion male teenagers, my target market. The 1 billion male teenagers are facing a 50-year career being a man and no fucking idea how to do it. There's no guidance, no leadership, no preparation. So the 1 billion teenagers going off the cliff into a 50-year career being a man, and no one's looking after them. That's my job.
Mm.
And ultimately, it's every man in the community's job. They forgot. They forgot.
Mm.
They forgot.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's the why of it. And I get it loud and clear. And I do these big weekends and I chat with men here and there and randomly anywhere. That's what we do. So that's the why of it.
Thanks. Thanks for that. We're gonna clip that one, Paul.
Yes, we are. I'm already drawing
Dope.
up the visuals.
Beasts. Beasts. Okay, awesome. So can you, again, I was gonna bring you back to, so
Yeah.
you've created this event, you have this vision of initiating these young men into the world of manhood. Could you talk about what that is about? What is this idea of initiation? What is the goal in a weekend? These young men, they walk in X and they walk out Y. Can you talk a bit about that?
How many hours have I got? Let's
All the
talk
time you
about
need.
an image. So we meet in a Central Park in Burnaby, just outside of Vancouver City.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a drop-off point. The moms drop off their sons, and there's 1 or 2 school buses that take 40 or 50 teenagers. And they're all lined up. They're checking off the list. And they got their garbage bags, their backpacks, and their backwards jeans on,
Mm-hmm.
backwards caps, and their whole bunch of fuck you attitude. I don't want to be here. You can't make me. They're just grumpy, surly little. And they hate anyone over 20 years old, 21 years old. They do not have a good picture of adult men. And I got 4 or 5 of my men with clipboards. They hate us. And they just, what the? Okay, I use strong language here. Get used to it.
Yeah.
And I was like, what the fuck am I doing here? You can't make me. And they get on the bus and they just hate it. And ooh. And then they arrive and they're just, why am I dealing with this prickly little bunch of whiny shits? Exactly 48 hours later, the bus comes back to the same park. And the bus explodes. You think they won the Super Bowl. They're coming out of there. They look you in the eyes, bone crunching handshakes. Thank you, man. Hugs and tears all over the place. We pulled off some fucking magic because we know the sweet spot. And when you see the before and after in 48 hours that we can generate, it's it's powerful stuff to play with. And the thing is, we'll hold that one. The next part is what we're doing is, I'll do it this way. The incarnating soul, the spark that keeps you alive, you can tell what it is because when it's gone, you're dead. So that spark that keeps you alive. When it came here, it came with a mission and something to do. But then society conspires to pull you away from yourself with wars, a way of life, and financial paranoia, and media crap, and doom scrolling, and so that the soul in here just doesn't stand a chance. And there's no reinforcement, there's no eldership, there's no initiation, none of that brings you back home. What we seek to do in 48 hours is to bring them back home to their self. So they're back in touch with their angelic stuff, but it's also their personal power and their gift and it's quite massive. And we try not to teach them anything. It's all experiential for them to discover. It's a cute little thing. But Sunday afternoon when the bus explodes, it's like they won the Super Bowl.
Yeah, we're playing a whole different game now.
Yeah.
Playing a whole different game. And I thought I'd add my experience of the showing up to a weekend and having the opportunity to watch you lead from the back and have this experience of the weekend. There's a magic that kind of hovers over the whole weekend. We're in a bubble for a weekend. And so I had my first experience with Mr. Lesley in 2024. I went to my first Waima, which was his 3000th Waima. And like I said, there's a bubble of energy in it. And it's hard to describe other than this. It's like everybody's being carried by something. We're living in purpose. There's a magic that's emanating around. We're in this special bubble where these young men are they're being brought to a level where they're starting to see what manhood is. Do you have could you talk us through, do you have any moments that stand out as moments where you maybe saw the light switch on a young man, or maybe you saw maybe on day one they were this, and then hour one, hour zero, and then 48 hours later? Do you have a story of one of those moments?
Yes, what's his name? Connor, young guy called Connor. But we'll get back to him in a
Mhm.
minute. But you're trying to describe the state or the space or the energy of a weekend. You
Mhm.
got it's a known thing, rarely seen in public. It's called limbic space. There's
Mhm.
other words for it. You have the outside world, and then you go through a gate and you go away to one of these weekends or a sweat lodge or a meditation retreat, and something magical happens in that limbic space where it's kind of spacey, and then you go back through a gate into the normal world. So
Mhm.
it's regular world through a gate into the magic bubble of limbic state where magic happens. Is like a timelessness, lots of cosmic coincidence. It's magic, um, and it's normal. Uh, I can talk more about just that dynamic.
Yeah, tell us more, whatever you want.
Well, I'll do for now. So young Connor, um, when was it? It was Mary's Farm, um, 2004, 5, 6, somewhere in there. And it's back of a farm out in the bush. The teenagers, were on a farm. They came in through the wilderness, and we're circled up on a Saturday morning having breakfast. And I'm just prowling around the site through the forest, talking to the trees like I do. And there's a small rocky stream with boulders in the middle of the creek, and it's not a major river. It's like 30 feet wide and shallow, but full of boulders and gnarly stuff. And I look down in the river, 20 feet down, and there's a young blonde young man sitting on the boulder. And that's kind of poetic. You got to picture this. It's just this wilderness and a little young man sitting there. And I'm thinking poetic. It's just a gorgeous moment.
Mhm.
And I go back past the cook shack and, hey guys, the young man off on his own, go look after him. So a couple of men went over to pick him up, and they come back and they've got a scrum around him. They're going, oh, it's okay, man. It's okay. We'll look after you. We'll look after you. Now, this little guy, we'll call him Connor. That's his first name.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with the other Connor.
Yeah.
Um, this guy is beside himself with homesick. He is just not puking, but he's sobbing and he's tears, and he's 9 years old. Like we usually do 12 to 15, but somebody has a bit of pull. So that year we had two 9-year-olds. And I'll take a young one if they can run with the pack, and they're good. Uh, and all the more compassionate men are with him, and it's okay, we're there for you there. And then they crank it. He's just sobbing his heart out. So I sent the enforcer over, one of our senior men, to deal with him, and he tried to, come on, man, you got things to do. Man, that didn't work either. So then I set him up with the other 9-year-old. I'm watching them 20 feet away down the lane in the forest. And they're like standing 4 feet apart. And this one's talking to that one. And it's kind of cheap because the other 9-year-old is my grandson. And he was cool with everything. And he's trying to be there for the other 9-year-old. Connor's having a tough time. And I watched him for 10 minutes. He comes back to, he's having a tough time. I tried 9-year-olds. I don't know what I can do with him. So I said, okay, buddy, what team are you on? They're all different. The green team, green headbands or neckbands. So I called over the elders, the two senior men with each team. We got a man here. Imagine he's got a broken arm. Look after him, give him whatever care he needs. And I say to him, but he's with the program. I said to the young guy, look, I don't have the manpower to drive you home because we're 5 hours from the city and it's not going to happen. So you just go with your team and just do the best you can through the day. And at supper time, you come and see me and let me know how you're doing. And this poor guy's still sobbing his heart. It's just painful to watch.
Mm-hmm.
Supper happened, just the mayhem of the day. I forgot about him. And then Sunday morning, still forgotten about him. We do our closing circle mid Sunday afternoon, and we're all saying and thanks and whatever their inspiration was, and it's quite moving. And this little guy walks in the middle. I said, "Oh boy, this is going to be good." And a little nine-year-old walks in the middle, tiny blonde guy. This is there with all these 16-year-old stallions. Silence. And he's talking, he stands up and he addresses 100 of us, men and teens. "What you learned this weekend?" said someone. "I learned that sometimes when you have fear, you got to take your fear and go on anyway."
Mm.
Ka-ching.
Mm.
He sat down. Now he's a top lawyer in Montreal.
That's a good story right there.
He went from heartbroken, sat on his own,
Mm-hmm.
talking down 100 men with some poignancy and depth and instruction. And just, yeah. You wonder why I keep doing this stuff?
Mm.
One of those every 10 years. I mean,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
get more than that. Yeah.
Okay. I love that. And there are young men whose lives have been significantly transformed from this work. Do you have any, are there any young men that come to mind right now that you think you know that you would be willing to put your name on, that you might have saved their lives from them coming to Weimar? Literally saved their lives.
Yeah, but no, but yeah, but no. We have them for a weekend, and sometimes they come back 2, 3, 4 times. One of them came back. She came when he was 12, and he's still with us. And he's 28 or 29 now. He was like 15 years in a row. Now he's on the production side. And they all say good things about us. But to claim that it'll change a life, I'm not going to say that. But I've heard some phenomenal anecdotes where corners have been turned. Even where, like, typically it's the Wednesday night afterwards, I get the phone calls. And
what'd you do to my son?
Yeah, what you do to my son? Oh
Yeah.
shit, now what?
Yeah,
What you do to him? What you do to him? Oh, why? What's going on? He made breakfast for me.
Yeah, is he broken?
Break.
Nice.
Most of them are just complimentary. We get complaints about mosquito bites, but
how's this? So let's I'd love to hear more about you specifically. So when you think back to the early days of leading Weimar, who were you as a man then, and how did the role of leading Weimar shape who you have become?
Time out.
Time out. All right, Paul, time out. Let's still record.
Um,
That was a great question.
Yeah, cool.
I'm
Love to
just
hear the
gonna
answer.
I'm gonna let this thing record.
Okay,
I'm
no
just gonna let
problem.
it keep running.
He's probably going to get an artifact to show us the answer to that.
You might be right.
It's like, and this brick almost fell on my head 3 days ago in the garage. It was something I crafted 20 years ago.
Okay, I'm back. I had to deal with something there. What was the last question?
All right. So the question was, when you think back to the early days of leading Weimar, who were you as a man then, and how did the role of leading Weimar shape who you have become?
That's a doozy. That's a doozy.
Take your time.
I remember the day, the man, that everything. I grew up
Before
in
you get
England.
into it real quick, before you get into it, Paul, can you put a note in, I don't know, somewhere, but can you put a note? Because there's a picture of Brad with hair, And I think it's really important because in my mind's eye right now, there's a picture of Brad with hair, and I feel like that's him when he started, and now he is, beautifully bald now. But I think, that tells a story in itself. But yes, okay. Go ahead, Brad.
Um, how was it when I started? When I Yeah, so in the 70s, I was a musician and I did a whole spiritual path and meditation and vegetarian and homeopathy and natural home births and all that stuff. And then when I ran into this bunch of men, a bunch of Sasquatches and gorillas, just scared the crap out of me because I was an English Prince Charles Pasty Twit bass player, just terrified by all these big North American or worse BC rednecks. They're just barking. And we're at a meeting one day, and I got backed into a corner to produce an event. I was the bottom of the totem pole with these guys, and they scared the crap out of me. I just didn't know how to contend with all this stuff. And okay, you're in charge of this big event. So out of nowhere, I'm producing an event for 400 men and a keynote speaker and booking it and all of it. And I was terrified. But I pulled it off, and it went really well. And then somebody else came up, hey, you did a good job on that one. Can you organize this for us? And then I found quite a role of organized events, event coordinator. I call it PTM, production team managers. If there's an event coming up, we get 10, 20, 30 men together as a production team for 2 months to do whatever, picking up the trucks and the food and the whatever. And have a system that I seem to have this natural system to do things. On the admin organizational end of it. And through that, you have to encourage men and get them to do things. And without barking or killing them, I got to get them woven in to produce a good event. We build the cauldron, the container for the event. And if that's good, then when you put the people in, good energy comes out of it. So I learned the art of event production, specifically for initiations. But my production model is infinitely transferable. It's for me, it's simple. I do it in my sleep. Works for weddings, birthday parties, holidays. I've got a memorial service coming up next week. The same principles. So over time, I've learned how to do the production stuff. And when I'm producing an event, I explained to many times I've been in a restaurant, I get a salt shaker and I put some salt in my hands. You see that? Each grain of salt represents the heart and soul of each man that's there. And I'm responsible for their well-being. And that they survive, that they get production men and young men, participants. The buck stops with me. There's no one up there that if I go down, it's me. So carrying that responsibility has definitely moved my position with the whole thing. So now there's a quiet, tender fear and also an overarching sense of rightness. There's just a sense of competency. It's not like I play piano too, and it's not like I go on stage with a band and what key are we in? I know what I'm doing. Bang, 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 bang. So there's a competency that happens over time. It's not a power to be abused. It's a skill to be used in a good way. And I've produced probably 50 or 80 events that I've produced and led as an event coordinator, and I've mentored just as many other ones. And the ones that I've mentored have done well. Every event that I've produced has been successful. So it was never a goal to learn how to produce large events, but I'm pretty good at it now.
Can you circle back to that phrase that you used around you became an expert in producing weekends, specifically initiation weekends?
Yeah, Young Men's Weekend. Well, I have a production model that I did men's stuff with, community, any social thing. Then it got honed and refined in producing the events for the Young Men's Weekends. And they're I build a container, the cauldron that the event happens in, and then it just takes off. And I got visions and plannings and all kinds of stuff, and knowing that there's a certain inevitability when I'm working towards it. It's like I'm aiming towards that mountaintop. What do I have to do to get there? You do this, this, and this, and I know the way to get there. So I think it's your question right, but there's a certain knowing.
That's perfect.
That just happens, yeah. And just for fun, I got a lot of guidance up here. Oh, look, I have this Inukshuk here that we built one year, 2006. We built a 12-foot high Inukshuk on the shores of Harrison Lake here. And this represents, I have these, I know, guardian angels or creativities or inspirations or muses sitting above my right shoulder, kind of whisper to me, do this, phone that guy, do this, pick up that. There's my little raven here. I got a little raven on my shoulder. Here, chirping at me. So yeah, I'm quite proud of, content and ecstatic to have a lot of unseen help in all this stuff. It definitely drives the bus.
You're the outlet for the service, and you're the instrument.
I'm the fire hose.
Nice. Is there anything, as we've been talking, that's come to mind? Is there anything you would like anybody listening to this to know, from your heart or from your thoughts, around the young men's work?
It depends on how wide a field this little video is going to go. Ultimately, it's every man's responsibility to look after the next generation of men. It's not a guilt trip, it's just a fact. And I know there's thousands of men out there that see stupid things out there, and oh, someone should do something, and maybe I could. Oh, I don't know, because they're already, half the men in the world know they got to do it, and they're kind of leaning, but there's no encouragement, there's no role models, no systems, no nothing. You just got to stand up on your own, buddy, and go talk to the guys outside the corner store and take them for coffee and talk. Just show up. So it's every man's responsibility, period, to look after the community. And the community is 1 billion male teenagers facing a 50-year career being a man and no idea how to do it. We know how to do it. And as any man who's 40, 50, 60 years old and survived, he's got those many years of wisdom he can impart. Because it's not rocket science.
Yeah.
Like every man who's been successful in his life has had some degree of mentoring. A sports coach, an uncle, a neighbor, somebody. Hey, come on, buddy, we'll get you through this. And that kind of mentoring, 1,000 things happen. The young men feel welcomed into man's world. They got some guidance. They start to trust one of these guys over 20. Here's the thing that the average teenager totally hates any man over 20 years old, 21. They're cops saying no, school teachers saying no, distant or abusive or gone dads, and a few good ones. All the crap on TV about, they'll see it's all bad guys. So they do not have a very good picture of an adult male. In fact, they have a horrible image of an adult male, which is really a shame. It's really stupid, because in 10 years, they're going to be one. And somehow they got to get turned around. And if they don't, you're going to have a whole bunch of 30-year-old 12-year-olds. If you don't look after them now, you're going to have a whole bunch of 30-year-old 12-year-olds. Doom scrolling and on mom's couch. And I don't want to, instead of being shiny heroes looking after the neighborhood. Don't get me going.
No, it's cool. Good. You pretty much answered the last question I had for you. I'm gonna ask it, and if there's anything else, if you want to squeeze the juice out of the orange, so to speak. So, do you think there's something essential about rites of passage or intentional male spaces that modern culture has lost? And if so, what concerns you most about that?
Well, how many hours have we got? The place of initiation. In all the ancient cultures, the young men were initiated, all of them. And what we do is we draw liberally for inspiration on all the ancient indigenous rites of passage and initiations. because they all did it. And it was like, here's a stick, go kill a bear. Or here's a stick, don't come back until you killed a lion, to a 13-year-old. I once listened to Nelson Mandela describing his initiation. I will not repeat it in public. But as all young men are initiated, and in the old villages, the community in the village would look forward to them being initiated, because it's great when they're 3, 5, 10, 12 years old, they're gorgeous and lovely. But when they're 20, they're going to have a position in the community, and they've got to be woken up fairly soon to what their potential is inside them, so they can be useful to the community. There's no point having a 20-year-old, 12-year-old trying to drive the bus. It's dangerous. So having immature men out there, it's dangerous. There's a bunch of conversations out in public these days about just that. The dangerous men are the ones who are still children, because they haven't woken up and to their own power, and with the power comes a responsibility to use it well. So it's all about alpha males, and the alpha males are the good guys. The warriors never start a fight, but we end a few of them.
That's the good stuff.
Yeah.
There's a book you pointed me to, was Boy Crisis, and in the Boy Crisis it says hurt boys hurt people, and I'm thinking about that when I think about like these young men. They are dangerous to their families when they don't have an outlet for that anger, and we all have it as men. And would you say that these events have provided an outlet for these young men to let go of some of that anger and that grief, so that they could return home more initiated and yeah.
How much can we tell in public? That's the core of what we do. That's the core of what we do. Because you go in and find the rage. Right next to the rage is your power. And rage is just power that's twisted the wrong way.
That's a good one.
Since Columbine in the 90s, there's been 450 school shootings. I don't want to end on a bad note. You got to get a good story.
Good. Yeah.
Since Columbine, there's been 450 school shootings where there's been 2 or more deaths. If it's just one pop, no, it doesn't count. There's been 450 or so school shootings with more than one death. There's been some big ones we heard about. Every one of the school shooters was male and did not have an active dad in his life. Ding.
Yeah. And there's a couple things too, is that they were all looking for community, right? In some capacity.
They didn't have community. They had no good guidance, no role models, no mentorship, no nothing. There's 1,000 things wrong. They are the result of 1,000 crimes. They're not the criminals. The society that let that happen is the criminal.
Yeah.
So we're actually actively aiding and abetting that kind of crap. In the North American jail penitentiary populations, how's it go? Let me get this right. 2% of the prisoners came from home with mom and dad. 18% of the prisoners came from home with just a dad. 80% of the prisoners in penitentiaries and jails, 80% came from homes that did not have an active dad. Single moms trying to raise a son. If the dads aren't around, I'm not saying it's suicide, it's going to be damn messy and a lot harder. Yeah, we'll do a darker version of this interview with all the stats and my thoughts and remedies. Yeah, Warren Farrell's a good friend of mine. We presented once. And read the book. It's got all the stats, all the reasons about why we should be doing this. So it's not boy crisis, it's humanity crisis. Because you got 1 billion male teenagers that don't know what they're doing for like 50 years of being a man. We tried to help them. We've probably got 8 or 10,000 gone through our programs in the last 40 years, plus all the other spin-offs and the similar ones around this North America.
Yeah.
So we're working at it. I won't stop.
So you've ending on a good note, you've really done a great job of building our future young men with YMA. If you were to be able to summarize in one point, what's one last thing you would like to leave behind in the world of young men's work initiations What's something that at the end of this would add to your satisfaction with the legacy you've already left behind?
Uh, we've stumbled onto and not perfected, but almost perfected an essential transition for young men to go through. And it's been refined for 40 years and it keeps working. It'd be great if it was incorporated into every school program. We have friends in different cities that have men's circle in high schools. Wednesday afternoon for 2 hours in the gym, they circle up and talk about stuff. And then they have their weekend events in the summer or a week-long event. So they're having men with men circle up on a regular basis and be able to talk about stuff. Good friends who have a program, and two elders or two mentors, two guys show up on Wednesday afternoon in the gym, and it's Leslie and Renault here. We're going to talk about relationships today. Who's got a girlfriend? And then the men shut up, and the teenagers start talking to each other. That alone is worth the price of admission.
Nice. I love the camera zoom in. It was perfect. It zoomed
alone.
in, right?
And the finger. Now look. Yeah, if it just became more commonplace, it's what we should be doing.
Yeah.
You know,
Beautiful.
hanging out with good men, and then we throw in a little mystical stuff.
Yes, yes. Any last words for Mr. Lesley for anybody that's listening this far? Anything you'd love for them to be left with?
From me? No.
From you?
Get off your ass. The world's dying while we're watching. Not shame. It's just there's so much fun when you're actually doing this stuff.
Yeah.
We talked to a high school assistant head coach on the soccer team and what he feels at the end of a season when he's worked with his teenagers for like 6 months.
Yeah.
And I don't do this for any kind of payoff. I just do it because it's my job to do. Yeah, it's every man's job. Get on with it. Call me.
Copy. Awesome. Thank you, Mr. Lesley. There'll definitely be more of these.
Thank you, sir.
This was, of course, this was our first episode of the KingMakers podcast, a platform to support and aid in the initiation of young men. We have one of the founders of the work, Mr. Brad Lesley, here. We had a great discussion. More to come. And thank you very much for listening. Take care.
Peace out. Love you guys. Thanks.
Peace. Yeah.